On the streets of London and Edinburgh, most people will tell you they're keeping a close eye on the US election.
I think it's like often the top news story every single day, which I actually kind of think is frustrating.
And it doesn't matter if they're older or younger.
I know about Project 2025, like we know about those things here, and we're like, okay, that's a terrible news for the climate and for all people all over the world, because what the US does obviously impacts us.
For Europe, what happens in America matters.
400 million Europeans can't vote in the US election, but it's still an election they have to really care about. And so that's why you're seeing as much coverage as you are.
Mark Landler is the London bureau chief of the New York Times.
Everyone in Europe understands that the outcome of the US election will have direct consequences for them.
The British held their own major election in July, with voters overwhelmingly tossing the conservative Tories out of office for the first time in 14 years, and giving the more liberal Labour Party a landslide win. But two political experts told us Labour received the lowest percentage of the vote for a winning party since the Second World War.
So there's a question there, really. Is it an election that Labour won, or is it an election that the Conservatives lost? And in many respects, it is an election that the Conservatives lost.
They went back to the Labour Party, but they went back to the Labour Party not really out of a great deal of enthusiasm, but just out of a sense of disappointment, and in some degree, real disappointment.
They say it's a part of a global anti-incumbent feeling by voters.
The big theme globally is kind of throw the bums out. That's what voters all over the world in many different countries, different political systems, there's this kind of general pent-up frustration.
It's a frustration many say is also building here at home. But after President Joe Biden dropped out of the race, that anti-incumbent flavor has a different taste in the U.S.
I think if Biden had not withdrawn when he did, the election in the U.S. would have shaped up as a much more straight anti-incumbent election. For Kamala Harris, you slightly remove the incumbent flavor from it.
Historically, the two nations have parallels with election results including Bill Clinton and Tony Blair in the 90s, as well as Donald Trump and Boris Johnson. So, what can we learn in 2024?
I think that the Democrats are trying to do some of the same things. And so to that extent, I think that the Labor victory gives them something of a blueprint.
The lesson? They promised voters they'd steer clear of the same mistakes the Conservatives made. In the United Kingdom, I'm Eric Morris for the Centre County Report.